Excavator busts open this rock but had no idea what it was about to lead to. Funk gazed at the workmen as they rushed to the spot. The sound of all their boots smashing the soft sand was drowned out by the noise everyone made. It was like something out of science fiction. He couldn't believe his eyes. Was he actually seeing something? Unless you showed them what was sticking out of the rock, they would not believe it. But what was this? One Funk was having a routine day at work. He had 12 years of mining experience. He worked as a heavy machine operator and had seen a lot of lost treasure over the years. They usually found junk, but occasionally they found something of value. Funk did not believe anything could surprise him these days. But he was unaware that he was about to be proven wrong. Funk was prepared for another day of digging at Millennium Mine in Alberta, Canada. Funk was content with his life. He had a profession that he genuinely enjoyed. Nothing beats working with your hands in nature. He was fascinated by natural abnormalities, which others described as an obsession. He desperately wanted to find one, but as time passed, he grew increasingly suspicious. But he had no idea that today would be the day he found what he sought. Funk sat on the seat of his excavator, as he did every day. The enormous crane would shovel massive rocks from the ground into a mound. It was normal for him. This was simply another boring day, or so he thought. He was excavating a crevice into the earth, exposing only muck and grease. As he scooped more of the ground's layers, he thought that each layer was older than the previous one, thinking what creatures might have trod on this dirt. He kept excavating until his crane hit something quite hard beneath the old ground. He heard a loud cracking sound and wondered what he had hit. The rocks appeared peculiar, so he transported them in his pickup truck to discover what they were. He then returned to the crevice he was digging. He peered at the damp hole, his eyes widening as he noticed something that caused his gut to tighten. Funk grabbed a shovel from his pickup and began digging quickly after discovering that the small crack was spreading. He felt like a strong man as alien energy flowed through him. Even with his newfound strength, he needed some assistance. Funk understood the value of time, so he began digging harder and harder, not wanting the loose ground to shift over his item and bury both of them. He was digging behind his prize when he heard something in the distance. Funk's backup, whom he had called in, was on the scene. They brought an even large crane to help dislodge the anomaly. They excavated below the relic and placed planks beneath it to keep it steady. Funk glanced at it uneasily as they began to hoist it after securing it tightly. Funk felt that this was his discovery and didn't want anything to happen to it. Funk felt his diaphragm relax as the relic rose high above the watery tomb it had been in. But he didn't realize he wasn't out of the water just yet. As the crane gradually lowered the relic to firm ground, everyone heard a terrible snap that made them grimace. The relic cracked in two, revealing to Funk what he thought he saw the first time he came across it. A team from the Royal Tyrol Museum of Paleontology was on the scene quickly. Funk observed as they rise wide and in surprise and amazement as they grasped what they were supposed to do. Funk discovered a real-life fossilized dinosaur, petrified from its nose to its hips. This means it had been astonishingly well maintained from 112 million years ago. It had teeth, bones, skin, and fragments of its guts. Scientists assumed that the unlucky dinosaur passed away and was washed into the river by a massive flood. It was boiled by gases in its body, which washed its belly-up carcass out to sea. After about a week, the corpse burst and sunk back into the water below. Dinosaurs soaked into the skin and armor, supporting its back and immortalizing its shape while tons of rock piled on top of it. Researchers from the museum and around the world worked tirelessly for 6 years to test, preserve, and prepare this dinosaur's remains while piecing together his incredible story. The nodosaur weighed approximately 2,500 pounds in its petrified state, giving scientists a good estimate of its weight when alive. They believe that the nodosaur weighed approximately 3,000 pounds. This suggests that the nodosaur was a lonely species when it roamed the land 100 million years ago. The nodosaur's superbly preserved remains continue to perplex experts, especially after its difficult and lengthy journey to its final resting place. Experts were still unsure how this preservation occurred. All they could conclude was that it had to have happened rapidly because the nodosaur had been undisturbed for millions of years after being covered in oil. The nodosaur is currently on exhibit at the Royal Tyrrell Museum, and experts are constantly analyzing its remnants to learn more about dinosaurs' prehistoric age.